Hi guys, this is Julie. Welcome back to your Brinker Family Farm. Today I am making my basic bread loaves. It's on my website, brinkerfamilyfarm.com, and I thought it'd be a fun project to do today just to show you how easy it is to make. It's one of the things that I got into over the winter and I've really enjoyed it, and at this point of the year I'm actually doing double batches, so I end up with 4 loaves when I make it. One thing about this time of year is because it's fresh bread and there's no preservatives or anything keeping it from going bad, it will go bad really fast. So I keep it in the freezer until we're ready to use it, or I keep it in the refrigerator just simply because it will go bad really fast. So join me today as I am in the kitchen showing you how to make my bread. Alright, to make bread, all you need is some sugar, salt, olive oil, eggs, your yeast, water, and I like to mix whole wheat and white flour. Alright, so we're going to start with 2 cups of water, and this is warm water. It was hot off of my tap. Alright, next we're going to add 4.5 teaspoons of yeast, or you can have 2 packages of yeast. And finally, we're going to add 1/3 cup of sugar. Stir it up and leave it alone for 5 to 10 minutes. I'm just trying to mix it up and make sure the yeast and the sugar is all mixed up and dissolved. And then we're going to just leave it alone. Okay, so it's been about 5 minutes. I'm going to show you what it looks like before we add any more ingredients, but I'm also going to give you a little tip. If you have a about 2-year-old, don't leave them alone to go to the bathroom while you're waiting on your yeast to proof, because this is what's going to happen. This is what happens to your second bowl. It ends up on the floor. Here is the yeast mixture, and it's poofed up a little bit and it's ready for the next step. Alright, so back to this. This is the yeast, the water, the sugar. It has done its business. It is active, ready to go. Next I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of salt. Then I'm going to add 2 eggs to this that are beaten. And dump them in. And followed by 1/4 cup of oil. I use this from Aldi's. It's just extra virgin olive oil. That in. Next I like to add 2 cups of whole wheat flour. I buy an organic one, but you can really use whatever you have and whatever you have access to. And then I give it a stir. At this point I like to mix in this stuff so that I can see what the consistency of it is starting to look like and how it's coming together. At this point we're kind of almost at like a pancake batter, waffle batter consistency. So I'm going to start adding in some more regular flour. And this is just a organic white flour. It's unbleached. That was 2 cups, and I'm going to add 1/3, and then I'm going to mix it up and see how we are looking, because at that point we are at 5 cups of flour. And I might have to switch out of my fork into my wooden spoon. Get it to mix up real good here. mix up real good. Starting to get some shape to it. So now it's starting to stick a little bit more and it's a little bit more together. Now I'm going to get my mat out. Don't mind our busybody here. Next I'm going to get our mat out and start kneading it and adding a little bit more flour to it and see what we need. Okay, so our countertop is just a butcher block, and because of that, it's kind of makes it a little bit tricky to clean when I'm kneading bread. So I have a pie, which is just like to make a pie crust, and you can like roll it out in this. And this has worked really well for me to put the bread on and to knead it, and then it makes it way easier to clean when I'm done. Containers of the sugar and flour are helping hold my corners, and I'm going to plop this out on here. Alright, so I got my bread dough out of the bowl. I'm going to add a little bit more flour to the top of it and start kneading it and filling it. I don't want it to be sticking quite this much. It needs to get a little bit more flour to it and not be quite this sticky, but you don't want it to get like super dry either. So you got to find an in-between to that one. Alright guys, so I'm back. It has been about an hour. My timer is actually getting ready to go off right now. Okay, so we're right at an hour, and I am buttering my pans. I just got some butter and I'm just kind of smearing it in all the corners along the sides just to make sure my bread does not stick while it is baking, and it'll make it pop out of the pan really nicely once it's done baking. If you don't have butter to spare, because sometimes like I don't always have a lot of extra, sometimes I try to have bulk and have a lot, but other times I don't, you can definitely just use like your non-stick spray and it'll do the exact same thing. It'll help it pop right up. So I'm all buttered and now I'm gonna get my bread. Let me show you the bread. Look how big it is. Isn't it nice looking? Alright, I'm going to fix you so you can see what I'm doing. And sleeping Merch behind me. Alright, so here's my bread, and I'm just going to punch it down and it's going to deflate from the first rise. And I'm going to plop it over here on my mat that I was using. And it should come out pretty easy. Most of that just came out. I'll scoop out whatever didn't plop out. Now, I like to kind of flatten mine out, so I'll take half of it because this is enough to make 2 loaves. Okay. Alright, so I got my 2 halves, and now I'm going to just kind of flatten it a little bit. I don't want to completely flatten my bread dough, but I want it to kind of get into a rectangle. And sometimes I'll set my pan that I'm going to use so that I make sure I don't, that way I know that I'm not going to get my bread too wide. So there, I think that looks pretty good. And now I'm just going to roll it up like a jelly roll or a pumpkin roll, or you know, any of those things that you can roll, cinnamon roll. And then I'm gonna stick it in there and do the second one. Now my dough today is a little bit sticky still, even after that first rise. I think some of it has to do with the humidity. And I must have kneaded a little bit more whenever I was doing the first kneading, when I was kneading it the first time. But I'm just putting a little bit on it just to help it so it doesn't keep sticking so much. I'm going to do the same thing. Get it into this nice rectangle and then roll it up and plop it in the loaf pan. And there it is. And they are. I'm going to set these back over on my, I like to set my stuff on my stove. So I'm going to set it back over my stove, cover it back up, and wait another hour. Okay, so my timer just went off. My next hour is up. It has done its second rise, which I don't think I told you in the first part, is when I was grabbing my bowl before I dumped it out and put it in the loaf pans, I was waiting to see that my dough had doubled in size. That was the first rise, and it has done that. Now I'm going to show you what the bread looks like getting ready to go in the oven. It has also doubled and it's ready to go. So these got really big on me. And there they are. They are ready to go in the oven. I have it set at 375 and it's going to be in the oven for 20 to 25 minutes. Yeah. Okay, so one thing you're going to look for when you pull it out is to see if it's done. You can sometimes hear a little knock knock and it sounds hollow, then you're usually set that it's good and cooked through. I like to just use a knife to go through and just kind of loosen it up around the edge. That butter is going to have done it. Butter or spray does a good job of keeping things loose for you. Now I'm going to just knock it out real easy and voila. And it's got a nice golden color to it. And there you are. Alright guys, well that is it. That's how I make my bread and it turns out really good, and I hope you give it a shot. It's kind of been one of my fun pastimes, I guess you'd say, in the middle of taking care of everybody, to make bread. I really enjoy just getting my hands in the dough and kind of playing around with it and watching it go from just those few simple ingredients into a loaf of bread. Until next time, bye now.